going to talk about the distributive property. The distributive property is kind of like it sounds, distribute, okay? It's a property in math that always has parentheses around a number or an expression. So when you look at these, when you look at parentheses, you should think about, does the distributive property apply to this situation? What it is it's like a card dealer deals out the same number of cards to all of the players. The distributive property is distributing a number by multiplying to all the numbers inside the parentheses. Okay? So, in this example, you have 2 A's plus a B inside parentheses. Alright? Like having 2 apples, 1 apple, 2 apples, and 1 banana inside of parentheses. Okay? And so you've got these, and if you multiply this amount by 2, then how many apples do you have? You have 4 apples, and how many bananas? 2. Okay. Well, if you have 2 A's in the parentheses and 1 B in the parentheses, and you multiply each of them by 2, then you have 4 A's and 2 B's in the parentheses. Okay? These letters, like we said before, letters, variables in math and in algebra should stand for real objects. Okay? We use A's for apples, B for bananas, and so on. Now, one of the things that you can't do when you have A's and B's is you can't add them first. Alright? You can't add these first. You can't add apples plus bananas and use one variable to describe them. Alright? So in algebra, A's have to stay separate from B's. When you're, you can't add them together. So, but you can multiply them by 2. So we can multiply 2 A's and get 4 A's. We can multiply 1 B times 2 and get 2 B's. And so that's what's left then. Okay? Look at this one. N's. So these are like
Noodles.
noodles,
Nuggets.
chicken nuggets,
McNugget.
McNuggets. You want to go with McNuggets?
Yes.
Stick with McDonald's. So if you have N plus 6 in parentheses, again these arrows are used to show that we're going to multiply the 2 times the N and the 2 times the 6. Okay? 2 times N is 2 N's. And 2 times 6 we know is 12. So you only, if you are multiplying 2 numbers together, you can write the answer to that. Alright? You can write that answer as just 12. But 2 times N, since we don't know what N is, we don't know how many N represents. We just know that it represents a bunch of McNuggets.
Yeah.
And so we have 2 groups of them now. Okay? let's go to your book. Open your books to page 75. Page 75. All right. There's another example. Actually, there's two examples here that I want to look at. Example 4 is one that I want to look at. Example 4 has some algebra tiles, they're called. And they are showing you this. Plus 5. This is what a model of this expression would look like. So if we have two x's, we can draw a model of that by, they use this type of a bar and label each of them x. Okay? So this represents two x's. Okay? And then 5 ones can be just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? These are all positives, so I put plus signs in them. And if you're asked to draw a model, this is how I want you to draw an algebra tile model of this. Okay? Now, what they're doing with this model is multiplying it by 3. So it's literally taking this, grab that. Yeah. I wonder if I could just grab this.
You gotta bring it down.
All right.
Go do the top and bring it down. Yeah, the top thing.
Well, I'll just have to do this. There's 1, 2, and
Yeah, just erase the top part.
3.
Oh, it's double.
Oh no.
My eyeballs.
This looks cool.
Okay, hold on. I got this.
Yay, Mr.
There
Mouse.
we go. So now we have 3 groups. Okay? Now what we can do, once we have the 3 groups, is you can write down the total and simplify it. So how many total x's are there now? How would we simplify these 3 models? 6 x's. So this equals 6 x's. And what else? How many ones? Jacob. 15 ones. 5, 10, 15. So this is the simplified form of these models. When you multiply 3 times 2x, you get 6x. And when you get 3 times 5, you get 15. Okay? Here's another example in just using numbers though, without the models. Look at example 5. In example 5, we're starting with a -5 outside the parentheses. -5 times 4x minus 3. Okay? Now, here's something that you have to do with the minus sign that we did with subtraction. And this is really important when you're doing using the distributive property. You have to insert the plus sign in front of the minus sign. You have to treat this as not +5 or -5, but as a -5. And you have to treat this number as a -3. That's why I've been teaching you, since we've been learning about negative numbers, that you should always put a plus sign in front of the minus sign, or change minus minus to just plus. Okay?
Okay.
So everybody write this one down in your notes. We've got -5 times 4x minus 3, and it's changed to -5 times 4x plus -3. Okay?
Okay.
Then draw arrows over the parentheses. Which means multiplication, -5 times 4x. And you multiply the numbers and then keep the x. So -5 times 4. What is -5 times 4, class?
-20.
-20. And it's not just -20, it's actually -20x's. So you have to write -20x. Then you keep the plus sign, and is -5 times -3 negative or positive? It's positive 15, isn't it? That's why we have to change this to negative, because when we multiply it by a negative, the actual answer is a positive.
Yeah.
Okay?
Jake Paul.
No.
So this is the answer. -20x plus 15 is simplified. Okay? So when you're doing your assignment, you'll be changing this form, using this form, and changing it to a simplified form by multiplying it over the parentheses. Now, there's one more way that you'll see this written in your book, and that's in example B on that page, where it's 2x plus 5 times 7. So the only difference here is that instead of the 7 being on this side, the 7 is on that side. That's the multiplier. And then you still multiply everything in parentheses by 7. You don't have to put a plus sign in this one. You just multiply. 7 times 2x is 14x, and 7 times 5 is 35.
Yeah.
So that's the answer. Okay? Any questions?
What's our assignment?
Your assignment is on page 76, 16 through 29 all.
What's it?
16 through 29 all.
So you said